Good morning, you guys. We're back. I'm not going to put off this class anymore. Let's get started, right? Okay, so with this topic, we have wrapped up, we have entirely finished Unit 4. And before we move on to the next unit, I just saved us some reading exercises from those additional proposed exercises in the book, okay? So we're going to do a bit of a reading exercise now before we start on the next unit. Can you move on? Gabriel, next. So these are the answers, but I don't have to show you because you've aced it. Next. Okay. So exercise 1 from these proposed exercises was just based on an article. It's a pre-reading activity, right? Remember that pre-reading is essential for understanding the reading. Like we've discussed in previous classes, I think we've mentioned it. In our real life, we never get a text and say, oh, I'm going to read this out of the blue with no prior information. I have no idea what this is about and I'm going to read it. No way. We have natural pre-reading exercises. I look at magazines I like to read, so I know the kind of topics and articles they're going to talk about. I read the headline and I decide that that's interesting. Gabriel, tu acabou de avançar o slide. Okay. And so, pre-reading is essential for understanding the topic. So, I didn't put exercise 1 here, but I am going to tell you that it's a paragraph about Germany, right? So, when you think about Germany, do you think about a successful, rich, empowered country, or do you think of a country that would have problems of poverty, hunger, unemployment? So this is an important thing for us to think about before we understand the text. What idea comes to our mind when we think of Germany? Is it a successful, developed, first world country, or we think of a third world country, a developing country, and a country with all sorts of problems that would be similar to the situation we have in Brazil? So the first paragraph pretty much wants us to wake up to the reality that it is a powerful country, but it has problems too. So pretty much that's the pre-reading activity. We're going to focus now on the reading itself, okay? We're going to read the text together, talk a little bit about its meaning, and then I'm going to give you guys a minute to just mark down the right answers based on the text, okay? I've never been to Germany, I have to confess, but I only hear great things about it, right? It's actually one of the most powerful countries in Europe. We've read and heard a lot about Germany in its fight against the coronavirus. I don't know if you guys seen it on TV, but it was discussed that they managed very well the situation and they had the ideal resources, right? So when we think of Germany, when I think of Germany, I think of a country that would have almost no problems, right? But this article comes to contradict this expectation of mine, okay? It is on your books, guys, page 83, if you want to go through and follow the reading with me. But if you don't have it or you don't want to go through in the book, it's also here, okay? I am not going to read these words in German because I don't have to, and I have no idea on how to pronounce them also. But bear with me, okay? So anyway, I'm kidding, but I really wouldn't know how to pronounce them right. Anyway, Germans' hidden hunger. Fürstenfeldbruck, Germany. Lilifercus works 5 days a week at a butcher's shop. But every Thursday morning, she can be found at her local food bank, collecting the supplies she needs to feed her family. Cus, 46, has been coming to the food bank, known in Germany as a Tafel, in this beautiful city, a town half an hour from the southern German city of Munich, since 2011. That was when she got divorced and became a single mother to her 4 children. She's one of around 150 people who visit this food bank every week. Mothers and fathers, pensioners and refugees. Around 1.5 million people are supported by affiliated TAFEN across the country. Munich and its surrounding area are home to 6 of Germany's 10 wealthiest districts. But this region is also home to 18 food banks. Brook is one of them. The town's pristine buildings, neatly swept sidewalks, and romantic riverside restaurants disguise a growing level of poverty. Cus arrived in Germany from Turkey as a small child with her parents. Just 2 weeks ago, she got German citizenship. She earns about 825 euros, $990 per month, and gets an extra 500 euros, $600, in welfare because of her low wages. But rents are high and rising in Fürstenfeldbruck. Cus' apartment alone costs her more than 800 euros, 960 per month. The percentage of Germans at risk of poverty rose from about 12% in 1995 to roughly 16% in 2014, according to a government report published earlier this year. Income inequality has also risen, the report found. The report found. Although official unemployment in the country is very low, more and more Germans are taking on part-time, low-paid, and insecure jobs. Okay? So this is the text. This go on the opposite first impression that we would read that everything in Germany is successful, right? Okay, so now you have questions 2 through 6 to respond based on this text. I'm going to skip to the next slide. Ideally, you guys would be with the book, so you could keep on reading the text and answering the questions, reading the text and answering the questions. But if you don't have the book, you're just going to see the questions now. Try to guess the answers from what you heard, and then we're going to correct it, okay? So Gabriel, next slide. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to do it, okay? And then I'm going to check the answers. Okay? Let's correct it. Give me a thumbs up that we can correct it. They aren't difficult questions, right? We just have to pay attention sometimes to a little detail in order to exclude one of the alternatives. Anyway, number 2. Number 2 talks about the woman mentioned on the text, Lillifer Kuss. The options say, 1, she's a genuine German woman. Wrong. She's not German. She has just got her citizenship, right? We know she came from Turkey. So this one is easy. She got her German citizenship recently, but she suffers prejudice. The text doesn't mention anything about her suffering, about the fact that she would suffer from prejudice from others. Maybe we can expect that, but in no point in the text it's mentioned that her problem is that she suffers prejudice. She's a refugee without a family. Oh, she has 4 kids. Come on. Forget about that one. She has no income and she depends on the state. This is wrong because it says that she has no income. And we've seen in the text that she works at a butcher's shop, right? So she has a job. She depends on the government, that's true, because she doesn't make enough money, but she has an income. And finally, she is a woman that noticed that her standard of living dropped after the divorce. This is the right one. The text mentioned that in 2011, if I'm correct, in 2011 she got divorced, and that's when she realized that her income had dropped and she needed assistance, right? So the correct one is letter E, okay? Make sure you understood all options. 3, the title indicates that Germany hides, oh, remember the title? The title has Germany's hidden hunger, right? Germany's hidden hunger. So the title indicates that Germany is hiding that its people is suffering from hunger. This is not the case. In no point in the text it is said that intentionally, the government is hiding this problem. We can't get from the text that this is something done intentionally by the government. So this one's wrong. B, it is the country that suffers with the least amount of hunger in Europe. There was no comparison, right? They mention many numbers in the text, but they are all related to Germany. I have no way to compare it. It presents cases of hunger. They are not that obvious. Is this the right one? That's why the title is Germany's hidden hunger, right? It's hidden because you don't really see it. It's not easy to see that this is happening. That's why most of us have the idea that Germany is successful, but the problem is there. So it exists, but it's not that transparent. It's not that apparent. You don't see it as easily as you would see the hunger problem in Brazil or in Africa for that matter, right? So this is the right one because they are talking about cases of hunger that don't seem so clear. D, Germany assists European countries that are still suffering from hunger. We don't know about that. There's nothing that mentions that in the text. And finally, E, it still has the best rates, the best development rates. It might be so, maybe compared to the rest it is still top 3, top 1, whatever, but this is not said in the text. There is no way we can prove this evidence. Okay? So it's letter C. For exercise 4, according to the government official report, A, there has been an increase in unemployment, and therefore there has been an increase on the income inequality. This isn't clear in the text, right? Actually, the text tells us that the unemployment rates are pretty much the same. They are still low. The problem is that the incomes, the amount of money being paid has decreased significantly. Okay? So not letter A. There has been no increase, no. Yes, no. The increase was not only in the levels of poverty, but also in the income inequality. And this is said in the text, right? People are becoming poorer also because the inequality has increased. Remember that they even say that 18 of the wealthiest towns in Germany are on this area, and still you have cases of hunger. So the idea is that the income inequality is also increasing. The entrance of refugees has impacted on the income distribution in the country. We don't know the reason. The reason why this is happening is not mentioned. The text does mention that there are refugees in Germany and that the refugees are not well paid, but it doesn't give us this idea of cause and effect. It is because of the refugees that this is happening. We can't find that information in the text. Despite the fact that the levels of formal employment are kept, there is a risk of mass unemployment. Again, what the text says is that unemployment is not really the issue. The levels of unemployment are actually very low, right? The problem is the amount being paid for some jobs. And finally, the wage levels decreased due to a great abundance of manpower, not qualified manpower. We don't know about that either. We can maybe connect a few ideas. The people that don't get really well paid, are they qualified or non-qualified? And we can kind of come to a conclusion, but it is not stated on the text that the reason is this one. Okay? So far so good. Any questions? Any explaining in Portuguese? Let's move on, okay? Gabriel, next. We have 3 more exercises based on the text, and we're going to answer them together, okay? So we have the sentence, the town's pristine buildings, neatly swept sidewalks, and romantic riverside restaurants disguise a growing level of poverty. Do you understand disguise? I don't want you to recognize me, so next class I'm going to come in a disguise. I'm going to come dressed up as someone else. That's a disguise, when you try to hide something, when you try to make it look like something different. Okay? So based on this sentence, what can we understand? That there is a contrast between the beautiful, perfect landscape of this rich region in Munich and an increasing level of poverty. This is the right one, right? They are saying that when you look at this beautiful area, you cannot guess that you have hunger problems there. Okay, so this is the right one. Let's read the next ones just to make sure they are not correct. It is a prosperous region in Munich, and it is trying to hide in vain that there is a big number of hungry people and homeless people. Again, what's wrong here is that it says that there is an attempt to hide it intentionally. And nowhere in the text we get the idea that there is an intention to hide the problem. The idea is that Naturally, because of the beautiful area and the richness that can be found, the hunger problem hides itself, but on its own. It's not something forced, okay? Despite the bucolic scene and romantic scene in the Bavaria region, there are millions of refugees suffering from hunger. We don't know about that. We know that refugees do use the food places where food is set free, but there is not really a number, millions of refugees. I don't even know, so this is not right. I don't know the numbers or anything, it's not mentioned. The beautiful buildings in this region are trying to hide a sad ghetto reality. Ghettos are not even mentioned, right? Throughout the text. And finally, the poverty increase in Germany is seen ironically as a moment situation due to the hosting of refugees. Again, the problem here is that they gives us causes, and the text doesn't give us causes, right? The only cause that the text really mentions is that people are still working, but they're not getting a representative amount of money. But if this is happening because of too many refugees, or if this is happening because people have no access to schools, this is not mentioned, okay? So letter A for that one. 6, it is possible to infer from the text that when they say infer, it's because the information might not be obvious. It is not typed there, but you can get this idea. You can conclude that, okay? So we can get to the idea that despite the fact that Germany is a developed country, it surprisingly has millions of unemployed and hungry citizens. Unemployed is not the problem. The text says that the numbers of unemployment is actually low, so forget A. B, although Munich and its surroundings are wealthy, they lack food banks. They have no food banks. False, the text talks about food banks. That people who live in this rich area but have no money to eat, they go for the food banks. C, Fürstenfeldbruck is very close to one of the richest districts in Germany, yet it severely suffers from famine. Is this the right one? Is this city close to the richest districts in Germany? Yes, we've talked about that, right? 18 of the wealthiest. Yet it suffers from famine, right? Yes, many people are going for food banks. This might be the right one. Let's save that one. Hold that thought. D, in spite of being a developed area, Munich and its surrounding also count on food banks to help the needy inhabitants. Letter D is the correct one. And the thing in letter C, it's because Förderburg is part of the richest districts. It is one of the richest districts, okay? It's not close, it's one of them. And finally, E, for being such a prosperous country, Germany sees no need for food banks. This is an absurd, right? Because the text talks about food banks. Okay? So the correct answer is letter D. The area is developed, but it still needs food banks for a number of people. And 7 is a grammatical question. Okay? So to wrap up this extra activity, we're going to answer number 7. And I'm going to save you the trouble. The answer here is obvious because of grammar, of structure. You don't really have to think about when to use will and when to use going to based on the general idea. You won't need that because it's pure grammar. You have to choose the best alternative. The question says, "Hi Susan, how are you doing?" Susan says, "Everything's okay." Jane, "Do you have any plans for this weekend?" And Susan says, "Not sure. I give a party this weekend." So, I am letter A, letter B, completely wrong. I am going probably give, it's missing a to, right? So it can't be. Will be, I will be probably give a party, it's wrong. You have the verb to be. If you have the verb to be, the next verb should be in ing form. We have no ing form. Letter A says, I am going to probably give a party this weekend. The adverb there could not come after to. I am going to probably. You would have to say, I am probably going to. Okay? You wouldn't divide the expression, the going to. So, the correct one has to be will because of the structure. I will probably give a party this weekend. As for the idea, why should it be will and not going to? Because the person is talking about something they are not certain. It's not an intention that they consider it will be done, right? That's why you would use will. But like I said, in this scenario, the analysis of the idea is unimportant, or it falls into second importance, because the structure forces you to use letter D. And for reasons based on the person who was doing the printing, we missed letter E. Sorry about that. Okay, next. Exercises 8 through 10 from these pages we have already corrected, remember? And as homework, I want you guys to take a look on the following exercises. These proposed exercises, at least the ones from this unit, they are all very reading comprehension oriented. And it is nice to exercise the reading to see what we can understand. So I do recommend that you guys do these proposed exercises, okay? I am not going to correct them next class, except the ones you guys asked me to. If you tell me, I was doing the proposed exercises and I didn't understand number blah, 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 I am going to correct it with you guys. If you have no questions, then it's just for your own self-study, okay? Let me know if you want correction, but if you don't need correction, just do it for your own practice, okay? And then let's begin with the unit, if not now, when? This is a typical expression that means the same as that other saying that we read today. Remember? It said something like, don't put off to tomorrow what you can do today. We have the same thing in Portuguese. And this is the same idea. When someone is trying to postpone something, when they are giving you reasons not to do something now, you can say, if not now, when? It means now is the perfect time. We can't wait anymore. Okay? So this is the title of our unit. If you remember, on the beginning of our class today, I told you that we were going to change the topic from big cities, big problems. I can't forget the name of that unit. We discussed it for so many classes. Big challenges. Big cities, big challenges. We are going to change the topic, but not so much, because we are going to keep on discussing the changes we need to see in the world in order to improve our quality of life. So you see that it's not really focused on cities anymore, but it is still focusing on quality of life, on the things we need to lead a better living, and so on. Okay? So the beginning of the unit, I'm going to come close. Guys, I have to get glasses. I feel like this shows how old I am, but I am rather old, so I'm going to have glasses, okay, in the near future, so that I don't have to do this. But as for now, this is what I can do. So, our planet has been going over 1 million changes over the years. I'm afraid to tell you some changes are not good at all. Human beings have worked a lot on technology and science, But now is the time to worry about something that is vital for our lives. Let's talk about the importance of watching out for our Mother Earth. Making changes for a more sustainable world involves much more than just recycling. It is about watching out for other people's needs. It is about making the world a better place, both for ourselves and for the next generations. Be the change you want to see in the world, by Mahatma Gandhi. What a beautiful sentence, right? Be the change you want to see in the world. That's it. It reminds me of a sentence said by Kennedy, I think, and it goes something like, do not ask what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. The idea is that we should try to change ourselves in order to attend our needs and consequently attend the need of others. This is an important idea for our present lives and moment, right? Because throughout this pandemic, and this is a surprise for me, the word pandemia in English is pandemic. Pandemic sounds like an adjective, right? But pandemia is pandemic. But anyway, in these times of pandemic, when everybody is isolated and held on to their houses and holding social distance, we have an expectation that people will have a more social idea of life, like it would bring us closer together as a community, because we are all being deprived from the same things, we all miss the same things, so we would share this responsibility that I have to do my part and you will do your part because it's the best for all of us. But sometimes I have the feeling that the social isolation has made some people become more individualistic. Don't you think so? Food for thought. But anyway, we're going to talk about the changes the world needs to go through, okay? And the changes it has been going through. So we're going to talk a lot about what needs to change in the world so that we can have sustainability. And therefore, Gabriel, next, it takes us to reading the world. One, the word is sustainability. We talked a lot about sustainability in our previous chapter. Remember? Here we have a definition of sustainability. It says the quality of being able to continue over a period of time. The long-term sustainability of the community. So we've talked about this before. The idea that something is sustainable is the idea that we can go on and on and on doing that. It's the idea that the use won't take it to an end. When something is not sustainable, it means that our use of it is going to cause this to cease. Okay? I'm sure you guys understand this better than I do, so I won't worry about it. The quality of causing little or no damage to the environment and therefore able to continue for a long time. The company's commitment to environmental sustainability. Okay? So before we get to the text itself, I have 3 questions here. How often do you listen or read about sustainability on TV or the internet? Because we don't have much time, I'm going to do the discussion all by myself. But be prepared to talk about this next class. And for next class, I'm going to hear your voices. I had an idea that I'm going to test during this week, and by Friday, I think you guys will be sending me answers through your voices. I'm keeping my hopes up that it's going to work. B, in your opinion, is sustainability related only to nature? Only nature can be sustainable? When we talk about sustainability, are we talking specifically about nature, trees and forests, or can most things be sustainable or not? And C, what are the actions you and your family may take in order to have a sustainable life? So, think about these topics, and we're going to discuss this a bit more in our next class. But I'm sure you all hear the word sustainability a lot these days. When we talk about recycling, when we talk about the banning of straws, you know straws, what you use to drink, now they are banished. And this is due to sustainability, the environment sustainability. So we are always taking action to have a more sustainable world, right? Okay, but we're going to discuss this later in a way that you guys can participate. But just consider the answers. Gabriel, can we go to the next slide? This is the text itself, okay? What kind of world would you like to see in 2030? I am not going to read it for you guys like we did in the previous exercises. I'm just going to give you the overall idea, okay? The text talks about the Sustainable Development Goals that was created by the UN and that our school holds so near. It's a value that we hold so near to Antares, right? Antares bases many of its actions on these UN Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm sure you have all heard about it. But what the text shows is that it was an initiative from a group of countries. On the next slides, it mentions the number 170 countries or something like that they've decided to hold this as goals for their nations so that we can make sure our world is going to be more and more sustainable. You're going to read it in detail, okay? Gabriel, can you go to the next slide, please? So here you have the global goals for sustainable development. I remember that last year's fact was about, if I am not mistaken, about number 12, right? Responsible consumption and production. And this year's was supposed to be on the goals that talk about innovation. Where was it? Industry, it was number 9. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. That was the goal for this year's that we were going to study. But due to the social isolation and so forth and so on, we didn't get to work with it. But we were going to work on number 9, right? Next, Gabriel. Then we have questions on the text. And we're out of time, so I'm going to get back to you on the answers for these exercises next class, okay? So next class we're going to begin from here, discussing the interpretation from this text. But what I want you guys to do as homework, and you can go to the next one, Gabriel. Next. It's over? Acabou? Tá voltando agora. Passa. Pronto. There you go. Go on. This exercise, this song exercise, we're going to do together. Is there one more? Tem mais slide? This is actually your homework, okay? What I want you guys to do at home, don't worry about the text. The text we're going to do together next class. As homework, I want you to take a look at the proposed exercises and do as many as you find fit. And I want you to do this activity because it is a listening activity. And we haven't really got to practice our listening, right? I mean, you guys have been listening a lot. That's true, I talk a lot. So maybe you've been practicing your listening a lot. But still, your homework is on this listening activity. I want you guys to watch the video. You're going to use the QR code to do so. And then you are going to answer the questions based on the video you see. So I want you to do the exercises 3, 4, and 5 that are based on the video, okay? Don't worry about the development goals text that we are going to do together. We're all out of time. I hope you guys have enjoyed our morning together. I always enjoy it. And I want you to compromise with me on something. I want to see your faces. So my idea is put a picture of you on your computer because next class we're going to open a Padlet page and I want you guys to post a picture of yours so that I can see your names and faces. Is that okay? It's not fair that you get to see me and I don't get to see you. So have a picture ready for next class. Okay? Guys, thank you very much. I hold our morning very close to my heart. I love these moments we have together. And count on me if you have questions, if you want to get any doubts from the homework. And next class, we begin from where we stopped, okay? We're going to take a look at the text on the sustainable goals, and I want to see if you guys understood the video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend.